I have to say I was really looking forward to speaking with you because you were the leading negotiator last year, helping to bring 40+% Cambodian tariffs hit from the US down to roughly 19%. Today we are hearing 10% based on the forced labor 301 component, but the access capacity part, that one is still a question mark. What's the state of play?
Well, we're very pleased with the rate that we received today regarding Section 301 on forced labor. So the rate ranged between 10% to 12.5%, but Cambodia received the 10%. We are waiting for the second component, the excess capacity. So we hope and we expect that rate will be not higher than 9%. So the two components, the forced labor and excess capacity, add up to around 90% or less than 90% as what we agree on the agreement on reciprocal trade with the United States, which Cambodia was the first country in the world to sign the ART with the US on the 26th October of last year, when President Trump witnessed the signing of peace accord between Cambodia and Thailand in Kuala Lumpur. Right after that, he signed the ART with our Prime Minister.
So you hope, but how confident are you that the excess capacity component will eventually be less than 9%, and how much less do you think?
I expect that we will not be more than 9% because US will honor.
But is it 2%, 3%, or something like 8%?
I would probably range, close to the 9%.
Okay.
Because we want USTR want us to have the rate in the same landing zone within our competitor in ASEAN, and that is a commitment. USTR committed to honor what they signed with us, and we are committed to honor what we signed with the United States.
Okay.
Right.
What about what the US has been asking for in return? I mean, I spoke to the Commerce Minister earlier. There are some, things that the US is asking for in return for these exemptions. What more can you share with us on this?
Well, first, we zero out all the tariff for the imports from the US to Cambodia. To the certain commitment, country-specific commitment that we agree with the United States. For example, on environment. So we have to enforce our law on the environment to ensure that there's not illegal logging and so on and so forth. We committed to reduce or to eliminate the non-tariff barrier. For example, SPS, sanitary, phytosanitary, if the products are approved by U.S. agency, U.S. SDA, or FDA, we don't have to redo the testing. If the drug is being approved by FDA, we do not have to redo testing in Cambodia.
What about what it is asking Cambodia to do in terms of imports of raw materials? Is that something that is on the cards as well?
Well, if Cambodia can import cotton from the US, for example, to make it to fabric, we likely to benefit from what we call TRQ for 3 years, meaning the lower tariff or zero tariff on that for 3 years. So we will look into that to import the cotton from the United States to make it fabric. So we will go upstream. So we will benefit from that. In addition to that, by having signed the ART with the United States, there's certain products in the list that US provide to us that qualify for zero tariff. So we'll be pay only MFN plus zero, if you will. But outside of that, we pay MFN plus a 10% as of today, until the excess capacity will come to play in a few months' time.
What about SEZs and how, there's talk that there's one for US cotton. Is that something that Cambodia is considering at all?
We have not heavily designated SEZ
Okay.
to import the cotton and to produce to fabric. special economic zone in Cambodia is for every manufacturing activity. We have 39 SEZ in the country. We approved 63, but 39 are in operation and produce various goods.
So not considering one for U.S. cotton?
We have not designated a special economic zone for U.S. cotton import. Right.
Okay. And not considering in the pipeline, that's not something that is being looked at?
That is depend on the private sector. We will allow if the private sector, if your company or any company or investor want to invest in a special economic zone dedicated to producing fabric, we'd be more than happy to look into that.
Okay. What is the longer term vision for Cambodia's special economic zones? Because you have dozens of them. I think 39 in operation. And then 60 in total.
63 has been approved, but 39 in operation. And so we expect that they will continue, the remaining will build the special economic zone so we can attract more the FDI into the country. But the FDI into the country does not necessarily have to go to the special economic zone. They receive the same benefit. Our investment law is the most liberal investment law in ASEAN. We provide up to 9 years tax holiday. We allow 100% ownership of a foreign investor in Cambodia. Every economic sector in Cambodia is open to a foreign investor. There's no exchange control in Cambodia.
That is very attractive, I have to say. But what about the governance issues within the country and how maybe this scam crackdown, is that also affecting investments into Cambodia?
Our Prime Minister called the scam center a black economy.
Right.
Black economy does not produce any good benefit to our economy. On the contrary, it affects our ability to attract a good investor. It affects our ability to attract tourists to visit our country. But our Prime Minister is so committed, our government committed and determined to eradicate the online scam.
So given how there seems to be headway in cracking down on scam compounds or criminal networks, do you see that already yet in the numbers in terms of maybe more encouraging signs from foreign direct investment into Cambodia?
Well, I just came back from the investment roadshow in Japan, in Korea, in China recently. And when I informed them that we have a total commitment to eradicate the online scam, and they also read the newspaper, they feel more confident.
And they're committing money?
Right. Okay. They feel confident to consider to invest in Cambodia. Now, if we look at the numbers, in 2024, we approved 414 projects worth $6.9 billion. 2025, we approved 630 projects worth $10 billion. So that 50% increase in terms of number of projects that we approve, 45% increase in the total commitment. For the first 6 months of this year, we are approved 276 projects with $4.7 billion. So we roughly 50% what we approve in 2025. So I hope to be able to attract more investment from now until the end of the year. But having the war in the Middle East, as it's the whole region, the whole world that we are affected by the impact on the war.
How much are those investments coming from China? Can you give a breakdown of the proportion and also how actively you are courting other investors beyond China?
In 2024, 49%.
That's a lot.
Right?
That's half.
And then go to 54% in 2025. But the first 6 months of this year, it dropped to 35%.
Why?
But we have all the investors that invest in Cambodia.
Okay.
But having said that, our investment law does not discriminate against any investor. We encourage every investor to consider investing in Cambodia because of our pro-business government, our young, dynamic workforce, our infrastructure. We want Cambodia to be a center for manufacturing and for logistics for ASEAN.
On infrastructure, the $1.7 billion Funan Techo Canal, that's your pet project. We've recently gotten confirmation, you confirmed to Bloomberg on a loan agreement with China. How much is that loan? What are the conditions involved? What will that loan be used for?
We get approval from China for $200 million loan to build the ship lock and irrigation in the canal itself, around $200 million US dollars. The term is very good, 1.25% interest rate, 20 years loan period. That for that ship lock. In addition to that, China will grant $200 million to build 6 or 7 bridges crossing the canal. In addition to that, the syndicate loan in China will provide up close to $1 billion US dollars to the concessionaire to build the canal. And this canal is a game changer for the inland waterway transport in Cambodia. We'd like to shift from a land transport to the inland waterway transport in order to reduce road damage, road accident, also reduce the shipping cost, the time, and reduce CO2 into the environment because of the canal.
Is it going to be a game changer for Vietnam, though? Because there are concerns that with this canal, it could bypass Vietnam's ports and waterways. Is that something that you've had discussions with Vietnam about?
It's not necessarily correct because the some shipments still go to Vietnam. Some go through our Siem port. So what we do is to make the environment where Cambodia can grow, make the pie bigger. So everybody can benefit from that pie.
So to the extent that you're not worried with the building of this canal, that it could in some way undercut the economic or even the security relationship that you have with
Not
the
at
neighbor?
all. On the contrary, is to expand the cooperation between our neighboring country.
Okay. Talk to us as well about the longer term vision when it comes to attracting investments. I mean, you talk about these near-term challenges.
Okay. We had the vision of becoming the higher income country by 2050. So with that, we need to diversify our economy to electronic, to automotive industry, food processing industry, to shift away from labor-intensive industry. That what is our vision.
Now, energy prices are in the spotlight again. Brent is topping $100 a barrel yet again. What is the fuel situation in Cambodia right now? Because we hear how Cambodians are cutting back on fuel usage on pretty much everything.
Just like the rest of the world, we are very concerned about the latest development. But what if we can draw from what we have seen in Cambodia is that our diversified sources have allowed us to be quite stable. So we do not have any interruption to industry or shortage in the country. And the good thing is also about our electricity, because we have 63% from cleaner sources. And that has enabled Cambodia to absorb the shock that otherwise it would be a much stronger shock. And this is to confirm that the path we are on is correct, that a national resilience comes from having many options, and it turned out to be that a cleaner option is the best we had.
On fuel, though, is it not an issue, especially in the rural areas, given how fuel prices are climbing?
The supply, our primary task is to make sure that we don't have interruption or shortage in terms of supply. And our diversified sources have enabled us to do that. Prices have escalated compared to the pre-Hormuz crisis. But we have reduced taxes and duty and VAT, and therefore we have helped absorb the shock so that the pass-through effects, it will not be 100% to the consumers. And electricity prices have stood its ground. So we do not, and we have not increased electricity prices. That helps industry and businesses.
Can we be expecting more of that support, though? Because in terms of lost revenue, it's costing the government $50 to $60 million monthly. So what else can be done, given how these budget pressures are mounting?
We value our people and industry the most. In this difficult time, we want to make sure that industry continue to grow, at least keep their factory processes going, and household above this kind of problem. So if it were to take longer, we will continue to support our households, our industry, as long as it takes.
Okay. Talk to us about the future plans as well, because as part of the energy mix, LNG is coming on board, 900 megawatts worth of capacity by next year. What are the import plans for Cambodia?
Our target is to have at least 70% renewable by 2030, which is going to set Cambodia as the second country in Southeast Asia that has that high renewable share. And the reason why we are doubling down on renewable energy, because we believe in sustainability. We believe that our economy going forward will have to be based on sustainability. And as I said, this cleaner option has basically allowed us to absorb external shock better. There is no possibility that a country like Cambodia, being a small open economy, could insulate itself from every external shock or event. But what we can do is to make sure that our diversification and reliance on different sources of clean energy will also reduce external shock to Cambodian economy. So that's why we are doubling down. Gas, LNG, as a transition fuel, because it will have a role to play in the energy transition. So our 900 megawatts LNG power plant coming up will be that part of the transition that we may need. So at the end of the day, this will be within the lower 30% threshold, and the 70% will have to come from solar, wind, and hydropower, and biomass.
Understood. But where are you going to be importing from? What are some of the suppliers that you are negotiating with? Which countries so far?
For the 900 megawatts power plant, we are going to float a tender. And that will be a competitive process that we have already seen interest from the United States, from Canada, from Australia, from our region itself, and from the Middle East. So we will find out very soon when we actually float that tender and see who can offer the best competitive offer.
So it's about price?
It's about price and stability of the supply. We're looking at both.
So does that exclude the Middle East then?
We will cover all because the Middle East, despite the current crisis, we believe that in the future they will be able to be part of the supply chain for LNG. So we will not exclude anyone from this offer.
You talk about the US as a potential supplier. What about the shipping costs that could be involved there? I mean, how do you offset that with the expectation that maybe there's a glut coming in the next couple of years and then costs might come down?
We'll have to see what it can offer, but we have like companies on the ground, even downstream here. We have Caltech, Chevron on the ground. We have Total Energy from France. We have others. So through their wide network, I think there will be something they could offer. So being the U.S. being a far away from Cambodia, but through their diversified portfolio in the region, I think perhaps they have some role to play.
The role of renewables. You talked earlier about how more than 60% of capacity is coming from that. How much more grid investment do you think needs to go into this as you grow renewables?
Our systems we have today has attracted more than $33 billion in public-private financing. Alongside this, we have the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, AFD, JICA, KOICA, Korea, and even KfW, Germany in this together. Going down the road, we will need a little bit more, several billions more. But again, it goes into a few areas: generation, transmission, and storage. Now, if you look at the International Energy Agency statistic, Every year, generations receive about $1 trillion. But only about $400 billion go into the grid. So there's no parity there. But what is good about Cambodia, we are moving on both fronts at the same time. So we are investing in generation just like we are investing in transmission and storage so that they all move in parity. And that we don't have any problem in terms of taking more intermittent renewable energy from further afield.
What about where those investments are coming from?
Diversified.
But a lot of it is coming from China. That's the reality.
Hydropower is predominantly from China because China contractors are the most cost competitive. But when you look at transmission, international capital that come and finance local company at scale. For example, we have one project, 1,100 megawatts in one place. So in this cluster, we have more than 1,000 megawatts of solar panels, and we have 500 megawatts of battery storage. And this is a mixture of international financing delivered by Cambodian company. So we can see Cambodian company at scale, but we also see FDI at scale. We talk about another 1,000 megawatt pump storage hydro, which will allow Cambodia to integrate considerably more renewable energy resources in the future. And this is more than $1 billion from China and multilateral institution in terms of financing of transmission line. So we have international confidence at scale, but we can also see local company at scale. But the good thing about our grid is that we are introducing what we call grid forming technology, which is to make sure that we don't have to rely on coal for stability of the grid. So now we integrate a battery storage system into this, and Cambodia is one of the first country in the world to try this, and it is showing it's working. So we're making sure that our grid is staying at the frontier of system innovation.
What about the ASEAN power grid? That's been something that's been talked about for a very long time. What progress is actually being made on that front?
National system can be as strong as its worst day. And Cambodia believes that a more integrated energy market would be the way to go for us, ASEAN, ASEAN being ASEAN, to decarbonize in the most cost-effective way. And that is why Cambodia is a strong advocate of the ASEAN power grid. We believe that we can build ASEAN resilient together more cheaply and faster if we can pool our resources together to do this grid, and we can draw each other competitive advantages.